When you go to a restaurant, there's a menu in front of you, and you can just order whatever you like, whatever you're hungry for, whatever you got a hankering for. Maybe you're thinking pasta, maybe a salad, maybe something else. That's great, because there's not a lot of consequences really to what you order at a restaurant, depending. But when it comes to deploying your access points, there's significant cost, money, IT personnel that are associated with how you roll out access point infrastructure. Now, I'm not talking about the access points themselves and how the clients are going to get connected, how you've got a certain area, radius, a hot area where people can get connected. I don't really care about that right now. I'm talking about the management side of this. Who's managing these access points and how are they being managed? Is it in any way centralized? And if so, how? So we've got these 5 different choices here in front of us. Now, let's first talk about, call it your grandma's version of an access point, and that is autonomous access points. Every access point is configured locally. If you're configuring home access points, essentially that's what you're doing, right? Home level access points and routers function in a very autonomous way. There's no centralized management of those. You just go to configure each one by one. Certainly you can do that with Cisco products that you support in autonomous mode. And as such, they still can be monitored using the prime infrastructure and support identity services engine as an overarching provider of policy-based management for some aspects. But the access points themselves each have to be locally configured in all their settings. Great for individual isolated hotspots. But let's talk about centralized control, because that's really where it's at when it comes to managing a scalable network. And so we move over here to this third column where we're talking about using centralized management. So right here on your intranet, all right? So we're still on the same intranet, maybe a different subnet, but on the same intranet, we're providing a wireless LAN controller to govern the behavior of multiple access points so that I can configure the rules here and the access points say, yeah, boss, that's what I do. And we'll have to be very specific about knowing what's going on at the data plane and what's going on at the control plane in terms of communication and operations. The traditional overlay model, it's very scalable. Clients gain access through an access point that is governed by the wireless LAN controller and controls data delivery. So with that said, if this was grandma and this was mom's access point solution, what else is available now? Well, the 3 other methods that we now see are kind of new and improved options, all right? New things to be aware of. One is jumping over to the cloud, right? And say, you know what? How about that centralized management is done over the internet? And so I have to work with a specific set of devices that are familiar with this, the Meraki flavor of products, which again are managed through Meraki, cloud-based networking and dashboard. So they're supporting their common Meraki-based OS, very lean IT. It's all managed through that centralized dashboard designed to allow me to build groups and deploy access points in various different configurations, but is really only scalable to a certain point, really designed for that mid-market distributed enterprise, and certainly supports that really well. But what else is available, right? So we got cloud versus on-premises. Let's jump back to the on-premises model managed by prime infrastructure, supports identity services engine. We've got autonomous versus centralized. Then you've got converged. Converged is taking that wireless LAN controller, remember, and embedding it in the switch, something like a Cisco Catalyst 3850. Very powerful, high speed, consistent wired and wireless operating system. One deployment configuration file runs them all with that iOS XE based configuration. So very cool, very high speed, great for supporting your network, supporting a good high speed maybe data center. But another option for some of our access points is to look at a FlexConnect configuration. This FlexConnect configuration is associated with creating an access point to wireless LAN controller tunnel across a wide area network. So imagine a branch office, or maybe you're hosting an event and you want to have the access points there. You don't want to deploy a local wireless LAN controller. You can tell those wireless LAN controllers to connect through a wide area network to find their remote wireless LAN controller that's hosted in the data center. And then that can support those access points still having that behavior, the control plane and data plane behavior that you desire, that is managed appropriately. And again, all of these enterprise unified access models over on the right-hand side, prime infrastructure to observe them all, ISE to govern policy for them all. And there's nothing that says you might not have an autonomous access point. You might have multiple converged access points here in your data center. You may provide FlexConnect for a branch office, And you may have some environments that are using a standalone centralized form of a wireless LAN controller to govern the access points. You can have it all. Like we said, generally don't do a whole lot of overlap between your cloud and your non-cloud members unless you decide, you know what, instead of going for this Flex Connect model, I'd rather that set of branch offices that I have all be cloud managed devices. Maybe that's the perfect solution for you, in which case you have a data center set of access points and wireless LAN controllers, and then you have your branch office solution, right? That can certainly function really well for certain businesses. As long as that's the model and you're consistent with it, you can really get some very effective networking done that way.